Good evening and welcome to the Top 25 Rundown presented by the Sportscast. Today is October 4th, 2023. If you haven't yet, please subscribe on all your channels, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch.tv, and Apple Podcasts. If you are on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating and review. It'll help us out tremendously. We are also on DAB Digital Radio. You can listen to us on your smart speaker, play Sportscast. Visit us on the sportscast.net. Also follow us on Twitter, the Sportscast1, and check out the Sportscast in the iOS App Store. Hello, my name is Alan West. Welcome to the Top 25 Rundown. I am joined by Mr. Oregon and creator of the Turner Cast, Mr. Tyler Turner. How are we doing, sir?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Doing well. Yes, I'm going to eat some humble pie from you in a minute. We're going to hold up on that. Let's also introduce Mr. Bob Alvis, jack of many trades, including high school sports commentator, public address announcer, host of Sports Cafe, and a lot of other jobs and activities. How are we doing, Bob?
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Well, that's why I only said the first part so you could say the second part. That way I wouldn't embarrass you. So, well, real quick, two things. 2 weeks ago when Tyler was on last, I said that Chris Rocco's wife was named Rebecca, I think. I got her name wrong though. Her name is actually Rachel. So we had that 2 weeks ago. We were talking about Liberty. So, but Tyler, you weren't here last week. We made a wager, and well, I was wrong. I was very wrong, sir.
Why were you
So
wrong? No, hold on. I want to hear why were you wrong?
I thought Colorado was going to be more competitive, and I thought they would actually show up at Austin. So I was wrong on both counts.
How did they not show up?
They showed up to score a touchdown. Other than that, they didn't really show up.
So you think the only reason why they lost that game by the way they did is because they didn't show up?
No. The reason why they lost the game is because Oregon beat them in all facets of the game, and it wasn't even close. That is why they lost.
Oregon is what?
They're a good team. So there you go, sir.
What if I told you that I think the Oregon Ducks can win the national title this year?
I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but depending on how their schedule goes, let's see.
Why is it a stretch?
Let's see. Look up the rest of their schedule just because
No, but
I think it's a stretch because Ohio State's going to win the national title. Therefore, Oregon can't win the national title because we don't do co-national champions anymore. Just my 2 cents.
so you actually do think Ohio State's going to win the national? Are you an Ohio State fan or not?
I don't know how to say it, man.
No, I know it's Bob.
No, I'm just speaking for Alan right now.
Oh, okay. No. I'm just wondering why. Why do you think that's a stretch to say that Oregon cannot win the national title?
I still think that the rest of their schedule is going to be challenging.
Okay, but that's every team in college football that's going to have a challenging games in their schedule. Why can't Oregon Ducks win the rest of their schedule? I mean, sorry, can't win the national title?
They can. I mean, we just got to see what happens if they can win the Pac-12 and make the playoffs.
Well, obviously, we know that. But I'm just saying, okay, so there's only how many teams do you think can legitimately win the national title? Maybe like 6?
Probably 6 or 8.
Right now, if I was looking at the teams, I would say in the Big Ten, Ohio State and Michigan. I'm still not convinced Penn State's good enough to win a national title. Maybe I would say Ohio State, Michigan. In the ACC, I would say Florida State. I still have my doubts actually with Florida State, especially last couple games. I still think overall there is some spots in their team I can't see them winning the national title, but fine, I'll say Florida State. So there's 3. Big 12, Texas. Texas, I think, can win national title. Oklahoma has looked good. I still don't know if Dylan Gabriel can lead them to a national title. And then you have the SEC. Honestly, I mean, Alabama, because of the talent on the roster, if they get to the quarterback position to play at a higher level, you have to, I guess, say they can. And then Georgia, even though you have to admit, Georgia and Alabama this year, not really impressive. But obviously they've won the last 3 national titles combined, and they've been some of the best programs over the last decade. Then you go to the Pac-12. I think there's a legitimate argument for Washington and Oregon.
Mhm.
They both have 2 of the best quarterbacks in college football. Oregon has one of the best running backs. They also have a good offensive line. They have an all-American level wide receiver. They have a top 15 defense in every metric. They have NFL guys in the defensive line like Jordan Birch, Brandon Dorlus, Papa Omaiba, Taki Takimi, all that could stop the run, get after the quarterback. And then they have a couple elite guys in the secondary, and Kyrie Jackson and Evan Williams. So that overall, when you look at their defense, other than one game this year, they've been very, very good. Now, granted, the only team that they played that I think was any good was that one team, but I'm just saying that if I was going to say, give me 6 teams right now that could possibly win a national title, and I'm just looking at the roster, looking at the quarterback position, looking at the offense, looking at the defense, I would say Oregon, Washington, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan. And maybe put in Alabama just because they have such an amazing roster and what they have on the defensive side of the ball. But that's my argument. I'm not being funny. I actually do think that.
No.
I'm like, am I being too optimistic because it's the team that I like the best? But I've seen them play every week, and when you have an elite quarterback, you have a top 5 offense, you have a top 15 defense, you have guys that can get after the quarterback, you have a great offensive line. I'm like, why couldn't they win it all?
They could. I'm waiting to see what happens, just because I think the main thing that's going to determine I'm more curious for them making the playoff, and I just want to see if they can win the Pac-12, because I think the Pac-12 championship game, especially since it's being the last year of the Pac-12, I think that's going to be honestly somewhat of a game changer when we're looking at the playoff this year. And so
I do think that the strength of the Pac-12, while I do think it's better this year, I do think there's only really 2 really good teams in the Pac-12.
True. I mean, it's still, this year for the Pac-12 has been pretty exciting now, which I didn't expect.
Who else outside of Oregon and Washington is a really good team in the Pac-12?
If they had a defense, USC.
You can't say that. You can't say that. You can't say if a team, well, if they had one side of the ball, they'd be a really good team. They're not a good team. You have to have a good team. You can't have all one side of the ball be like literally marginal.
All right. How about Oregon State then?
No, they lost to Washington State. They have an average quarterback. They have very limited weapons at the wide receiver position. No, they're not a great team. They're a fine team. Like USC and Oregon State are teams that can win 9-10 games. USC, the only reason why I'd probably rate them a little higher is because they have Caleb Williams. If you took Caleb Williams off of USC, that's a 4-loss team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that defense, they gave up 27 points in the second half to Colorado. Colorado, if they would have gotten the ball back, would have scored and probably would have won the game. I mean, USC has a terrible defense.
Mm-hmm.
There's never one. What team with a terrible defense have ever won a national title? And then Oregon State doesn't have great weapons, and it has a very average quarterback. DJU is an average quarterback. And then you got Washington State, has good quarterback, has, a solid team, well-coached team, but they've limited athletes on defense. They're susceptible. I think they lose UCLA this week. And then you have Utah. Utah has no offense.
Yeah, that
Utah has no offense. They couldn't score if we were the three people defending and they had 11 guys on the other team. So what do you understand what I'm saying? I think Oregon and Washington, who play next week, I think they're the only two teams that have an elite quarterback, have elite weapons, good offensive line, and good defense. I'm going to give the edge to Oregon over Washington because I think actually Oregon has better defense. I think Oregon actually has a more elite pass rushers, and I think they have a better defensive backfield. But I do think Washington can win that game in Washington. Oregon could lose this game, the next one. But my argument is I just think but I just that was just my argument. I just thought sorry, Bob looks bored already. I thought since the subject came up and you whiffed badly, I then brought up the reality that actually I think Oregon can win the national title.
Well, I didn't.
And I'm sorry, I have to call you out.
I was waiting,
and I have to call you out.
There's a difference.
And I have to call you out and say USC is a good team. They had a defense.
I mean, when you watch most of their games, you see that the offense always shows up in the defense. Well, you kind of wait to see what happens.
But that's not a good team. Okay. They can win games because of their offense, but they will never win a big game. You have to stop the other team. USC, if I had to pick today, they won't beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. They won't beat Oregon at Oregon. And I don't know if they beat Washington at home. That's a 3-loss team.
Okay. That's fair. That is fair.
The Pac-12 is talked about more on this podcast than they are any national media outlet like ESPN or Fox or anything like that.
They actually have been talked about quite a bit this year.
I will bet you
mostly in memoriam. That's why
there's two schools. The Pac-12 will not have two schools in the playoff.
I agree with you.
I mean, that's not going to happen.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I just said that Oregon and Washington have the team to compete. Yeah,
I agree with you on that.
I don't know if there'd be two teams in any conference. If actually I said one conference pulled it off this year, I would actually argue the Big Ten because Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State are all pretty good. So I could see the Big Ten possibly pull because they're all in the East. And remember, only one of them can play for a Big Ten championship. So I could see the Big Ten. I don't think any other SEC. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but I could see the SEC missing the playoff this year. If Georgia somehow loses and doesn't win the SEC, and then you have a 2-loss West team that, I mean, and what about the SEC makes you say that they have really good playoff teams this year? Other than their past results, what have you seen from an SEC team this year that it looks like a great team?
I believe in media bias. That's the thing. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I think there'll be one SEC team in there because you got to think too. It matters how much does somebody lose by. I think even though they said it don't, even though they say it does not, it does.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, they always do that when the committees look at the teams that are going to come in.
But am I not right? Like, who in the SEC right now looks like a great team?
Kentucky.
I mean, yeah, right? But I still think they'll have trouble going into Georgia and winning.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you look at Georgia. I've watched a lot, pretty much the whole South Carolina game. I watched them play this week against Auburn. And I'm like, man, that defense is not like Georgia Normal's defense is. Their offense is, has Black Bowers, but I think he's an okay quarterback, Carson Beck. They're running the ball okay. Their offensive line, not like it used to be. Their defense is taking a step back. And I'm just like, they're not the number one team in the country.
I hear Georgia being USC without the offense. They have the defense, but they don't have the offense.
I mean, anyone can beat USC because USC, I mean, a blind school is going to score. I mean, yeah, but I just am not that impressed that Alabama has a quarterback problem. And
well, don't forget LSU has stunk up the joint.
I mean, A&M has talent, but they already lost by 15 to Miami, and they play Alabama, so one of those are going to already have 2 losses. Yeah, it's good. It's an interesting year, and like I said, Florida State's undefeated, but Florida State could have lost that game to BC at the end. They should have lost to Clemson. Clemson found a way to lose that game. North Carolina's undefeated. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting year. But anyways, I broached the subject at the beginning, and I was like, "Do you think?" And I think there's a fair argument that Oregon or Washington, if they can be a 1-loss Pac-12 champion, could beat Georgia, could beat Texas is my number 1 team right now.
Okay.
But do I trust them?
No, you don't. But remember how we talked about Jacksonville State earlier, fellas? They just scored another touchdown, so it's 23-21 in that game.
Oh, nice.
Well, they got a gift because on a punt, they recovered the punt at like the 14.
Okay, let me
but
I'll watch this on my phone while I noticed you guys are looking at it.
Well, yeah, me, I'm behind.
Yeah, well, I keep track of it while
listening
to Tyler after.
Is the other game on also?
Yeah.
The other game's on CBS Sports Network.
By the way, that's a garbage network. It is the worst play. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I think actually that's what Liberty's on tomorrow. So never mind. Great network. It's awesome.
We better get the picks before Tyler makes anyone else mad.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely worried about that. Yeah, so much. All right, so the first one. Go ahead. What, Bob? Go ahead, sir.
Oh, I was just gonna say, are we going over this week's? Or are we gonna go back and look at last week's at all?
I mean, we can. I got my butt whooped, but
and you were 11-4, so.
Sorry.
Yep. Congratulations, Tyler.
Wonder why you want to talk about last week.
I know. I wanted the week before I did terrible, but I did good on that Oregon pick. That's all I cared about.
Did.
Last week, how do we go back and? So I'm not very good at this. How do you go back and look at?
So last week you picked Florida over Kentucky.
Yeah, that was wrong.
You picked Clemson over Syracuse.
Clemson looked good.
Standings. Click on standings and see if that helps you.
Yeah, no, I'm looking.
I know what you do is.
I'm looking at it now. I got it now. By the way, Clemson. You know, if it wasn't for stepping in the mud against Florida State and blowing that game, Clemson doesn't look that bad. So it doesn't look that bad. Okay, you can keep going.
All right, you picked Texas A&M over Arkansas.
A&M's looking better.
You picked Colorado, which I find funny.
Well, because it was at home.
Right.
It was at home. And guess what? I had this weird feeling that, first of all, Colorado is going to play better at home. And you know what else I had a feeling of, Alan?
What's that?
The USC doesn't have a very good defense. I had a feeling that somehow they were going to give up points in that game. And guess what? They did.
Yeah.
I feel like you were either from, a deceased Colorado offensive player or a deceased USC defensive player came to Tyler in a dream and said, "Don't pick or pick us." Something like that. I was going to say OJ, but that's not a fun joke to make.
I just looked at a picture of Alex Grinch and I'm like, okay, they're going to give up 41 points. No, that was really what it was. I just thought USC's defense stinks and they always pull through. If there's USC fans watching right now, they can't stand me. Georgia versus Auburn. Yeah, I just questioned Georgia this year. I thought Georgia was going to win the game, but I mean, would you take Georgia over a lot of people right now? If it was a 14-point spread? It's a 21-point spread this week against Kentucky. Do you think they're actually going to cover a 21-point spread? I don't know. Michigan versus Nebraska. Michigan's good. Michigan is real good, Alan. Michigan is really good. Alan, are you not responding? Alan. Is he? Alan.
He's just ignoring you, I think.
A lot of people.
Huh?
Yeah.
Are
Tyler was saying Michigan's really good.
I'm not as convinced about their receivers, but their running backs are what is keeping them in the game.
Were you hearing me?
Edwards.
Were you hearing me right now, or are you purposely ignoring me?
I'm hearing you somewhat.
Okay. Because I said it like 5 times.
Okay, I didn't hear you before, so that's why.
Did? Okay.
I heard it.
Bob was like, I think he's ignoring you because I was like, Michigan's looking real good.
No, I didn't hear you because if I had, I would have responded. But no, I mean, Michigan, I'm not as convinced about their wide receivers, but the running backs, they're what's keeping them in the game right now.
Keeping them in the game?
Yeah. They're keeping
40,
them.
45-7 is keeping them in the game?
Yeah. I mean,
if
you didn't have Quorum or Edwards,
Michigan would win the national title if it was played today.
well, they'd have trouble against Oregon.
I would pick Michigan.
He got you on that one.
I'd pick Michigan. I'd definitely pick Michigan over Ohio State.
It's okay. A lot of people do that.
Okay, Kansas versus Texas. Texas looks good.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers is having a good year so far.
I mean, I think they would have covered if Jaden Daniels had played. Jaden Daniels out for the game, so that's a tough one to win there. LSU versus Ole Miss. Man, LSU's not that good, are they?
Yeah.
That's odd. Iowa State versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma's pretty good. Pretty good.
This will be a good week for them.
Notre Dame versus Duke. Duke, that was really unfortunate. It was like 4th and long. They're about ready to win the game. Notre Dame converts, scores a touchdown, and Riley Leonard is now out for pretty much 4 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Really unfortunate for Duke. They outplayed Notre Dame in that game, but good victory by Notre Dame. South Carolina versus Tennessee. South Carolina's not very good. Michigan State versus Iowa. Iowa's and Michigan State are both not very good. West Virginia. Hey, by the way, West Virginia. Bob, what's up? Your Mountaineers are pretty good.
Yeah, I don't have any favor towards them except I have a friend that likes the Mountaineers, and if I don't pick them, I can't talk to him probably.
They're not bad though.
No.
They were talking about firing Neil Brown the whole offseason, and he's come out here and he has had a pretty good year. So good for them. Alabama versus Mississippi State. Man, Mississippi State. I feel bad because obviously the tragedy that happened to Mike Leach, but they're not good. They're not good.
Yeah.
Washington versus Arizona. Tell you what, Washington dinged around in that game. And Arizona came back and that got a little spicy there at the end. Washington dinged around. Washington was better and they were ahead, but they played around and almost caught themselves in a doozy. So, well, good job, guys. This week.
Okay. All right, let's start at the top on Fox. What do you think, Bob?
I got Maryland. Plus 18.5. Ohio State will win, but Maryland will cover.
Tyler?
Ditto. Maryland's 5-0. Maryland's not bad. They have a pretty good quarterback. Play a little defense. Ohio State wins. Maryland covers.
I'm hoping this is a game where Ohio State is able to play a bigger time opponent and blow them out. So I'm going to pick Ohio State straight up.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was shocked. I was so shocked by that one.
What a surprise. I know.
Good thing we got arms on this chair.
Whoa.
Very nice. So we have next LSU and Missouri, 12 noon on ESPN. LSU is -6.5. You got Tyler?
I might punch myself on this one, and yes, guys, I can do a video of me punching myself. Somehow, I think LSU comes out and plays better. They have better talent than Missouri. It's at Missouri, but I think LSU wins by like 2 touchdowns. But you ever have one of those picks that you're just like, I don't know about?
Yeah, I got a couple this week.
So I say LSU, but I don't feel good about that one.
All right. What about you, Bob?
Give me Mizzou.
Straight up?
I don't know. I don't know about that. I would like to think no, but LSU to me has not looked productive at all.
I agree.
And I don't think enough people know about Missouri, so I'm in one of them in that boat. So I don't know, but it's at Missouri. They're going to be if they win, they're 6-0, which is probably not going to happen again for a long time unless they really soften the schedule. So
I'm picking Missouri also. Then the next game we got is the Red River rivalry, Oklahoma and Texas. Texas is a 6.5-point favorite. Bob, what do you got?
Texas win and cover, obviously.
Tyler?
I might end up changing this one. By the way, I've changed a couple. If you haven't noticed, because remember I didn't have Oregon covering over Colorado, and then I changed that. Luckily,
yeah, I remember that.
I think it's actually a really close game. I think it's a really, really close game. I do think Texas wins, but I think it's like a 35-31 victory. So that actually means I think Oklahoma covers.
All right. I'm picking Texas straight up for this game. Next game, 3 o'clock on the Pac-12 network. We have Washington against UCLA.
Washington State.
Big difference. Alan.
Yes.
Okay, where are you? You keep on freezing. It's Washington State.
I'm going to pick UCLA. I'm going to go for the upset.
Washington State.
All right.
I'm gonna pick UCLA. It's at UCLA. Washington State did beat Wisconsin and Oregon State, but where was that at? It was at the Palouse. That's a team that's always been better at home. I don't think it travels as well. I think UCLA beats them.
Question is how many people are going to be at the UCLA game because they haven't had that great of attendance the past few games. So
there'll be more people there than watching the Pac-12 network.
That's true.
True.
All right. Then the next game we have 3:30 on ESPN is Syracuse and North Carolina. So North Carolina is the 8.5-point favorites. I like Carolina. Who do you got, Tyler?
When you say you like it, you like them to cover and win?
Yes.
Okay. North Carolina, I think it's like a 31-21 kind of win. So they cover and win.
I agree. Carolina, both ways. Carolina wins and covers.
All right. Next game, 3:30 on CBS. We have Alabama and Texas A&M. Bama's a 2.5-point favorite. What do you think, Bob?
I got Bama. I don't know why, but I got Bama.
Win and cover or just win?
We'll do both. They're gonna cover.
Okay. Tyler?
Gig 'em. A&M pulls off I guess it's not much of an upset. It's actually 2.5. I think they pull off a close victory at home. It's a tough place to play, and they will be up for Alabama.
I could argue Jimbo needs it.
He does need it.
He does need it. I'm still picking Bama to win and cover, though. Then at 4 o'clock we have on Fox UCF and Kansas. Kansas is 3.5 point favorite. Is the Kansas quarterback going to play in this game, Tower?
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I don't know because that actually is totally that I'll pick Kansas to win and cover if he does. But if he isn't, then I think they're not near as good a team. I think UCF wins.
I'll go Jayhawks win and cover.
Bob, I'm going to do the same as you. Then the next game is 7 o'clock on ESPN. Battle of the Undefeateds. Kentucky against Georgia. Georgia's a 14.5 point favorite. Bob, what do you got?
Give me Georgia to do both.
Okay.
You know, I feel like we've kind of poo-pooed on Georgia here a little bit, but I feel like this is Georgia's statement game, and I feel like Kentucky comes back down to earth a little bit. I don't think the Georgia defense is great, but still pretty good. And I think Kentucky will probably be a little intimidated by the name on the jersey.
What about you, Tyler?
I don't believe Georgia has covered a game yet this year. If they did, it's just one. 14.5 is a pretty dang good spread. And I think that Kentucky has, Levy, the quarterback is a pretty solid quarterback. I'm saying that right. The former what's the former North Carolina State? Leary. And I think Kentucky's going to come in there and play a pretty good game. I don't think they beat Georgia, but I see like a 31-21. So I think Kentucky covers.
I think Kentucky covers as well, just because I'm waiting to see if Georgia's going to show up better than they showed up last week. And I think this is going to be a good game to see if the nation's longest winning streak is going to continue or not.
Is it just me? But doesn't it look like Georgia's just not? There's something just not on the same level it's been the last couple of years.
Yeah, they don't seem as invincible as they have the past few years. I mean, granted, part of it's because a lot of their players were drafted, but this year, it almost feels like there's more chinks in the armor to me.
On both sides, they just don't look as good.
100%. All right, for the nightcaps, we have starting out 7:30 on ABC, Notre Dame against Louisville. Notre Dame is a 6.5 point favorite. What do you got, Tyler?
I think I'm going to kick myself with this one, but I actually think Louisville pulls off the upset at home.
Okay.
I don't feel great about it because I do think Notre Dame's the better team. And it does feel like Notre Dame kind of got away with one next week and then it's going to come back and win this one significantly. But and they do have USC coming up next week. So it does feel a little bit like a trap game. And Louisville's pretty good. They're 5-0. But yeah, I think Louisville pulls it off. I think it's because I think it really is because maybe just squeezing between the tough games and the big game against USC. Yeah, I think Louisville pulls it off.
Understand. Bob, who you got?
I got Louisville covering.
Okay.
Winning or covering?
I got them covering. I don't know about the winning. I'll take Louisville. Why not?
I'm gonna go against both of you and pick Notre Dame to win and cover. So we will definitely see how that goes. Then we have 7:30 on NBC, Notre Dame against Minnesota. Michigan against Minnesota. Pardon me. Oh, Tyler, go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Enjoy that, sir. Enjoy it.
I'm just laughing. I'm just thinking of Notre Dame and Minnesota playing. I'm sorry. I don't know when if they ever played. Probably like 30 years ago. For some reason, so 20.5 is a heck of a spread. Because Minnesota is better at home. They're a decent team. Michigan is really good. I mean, I definitely think Michigan wins, but I see like a 38-24 type win. So I'm going to say Minnesota covers.
What about you, Bob?
Give me Michigan both ways, winning and covering.
Same with me. Just because every game that I've seen for Michigan, they have only given up like the past two games that they played. It was against Rutgers, and then the one we saw last week. They've only given up a touchdown both games, and they've scored over 30 points. So we'll see how that goes. The last 7:30 game on here we have on the SEC Network is Arkansas going against Ole Miss. Ole Miss is an 11.5-point favorite. Bob, what do you got?
I got Ole Miss covering. And winning. They won't lose to Arkansas.
Tyler?
Yeah. Ole Miss looked pretty good last week. I think Jackson Dark's actually playing really well this year. Arkansas is just not very good. Ole Miss covering.
Same way, Ole Miss winning and covering just because as much as you would want to see Arkansas do better, they've already got 3 losses and they still have a long way to go in SEC play. So be curious to see about that. Starting at 8 o'clock slate on the ACC Network, we have Georgia Tech and Miami. Miami is a 20.5-point favorite. Who you got, Tyler?
Hey, I thought I picked this different earlier. 20.5 points is ooh. I mean, Georgia Tech's not very good. Miami's a pretty solid team. Miami definitely wins this game. Shoot. Somehow 20, that's a pretty big spread. Okay, I'm gonna pick Miami to cover, but I don't feel great about it. That just feels like one of those like 35-17 wins. Georgia Tech covers. Miami wins.
Miami
All right.
to cover and win, no doubt in my eyes.
I
think
got the
Georgia
same.
Tech is terrible. I think Georgia Tech is awful.
They are awful, but just feels like one of those games that somehow you do have a point.
Yep, and then
Alan, what
Texas,
do you do?
Miami wins and covers. Also, quick recap. Jacksonville State just scored another touchdown. The score is now 31-23.
Wow.
Thanks for playing that Tennessee State. It was fun while it lasted.
That's why I said the last 2 games, the way that they come back in the second half, any team they play, it's going to be a lot tougher. So, I mean, Liberty's going to play them. That should be one of the best games of the year, at least in the conference, just in my humble opinion. So we'll see what happens with that. But getting back to the picks, 8 o'clock on ESPN2, we have Baylor and Texas Tech. Baylor's a 1.5-point favorite. This is we almost call this the mediocre bowl of the Big 12 right now for this game. Bob, who you got?
Give me Baylor both ways.
All right. Tyler?
I mean, I think Texas Tech is better. They did lose Tyler Shuck for the year with a broken leg. I'm going to take Texas Tech.
All right, I'm going to take Baylor both ways, just like Bob. We'll see how that goes. 10 o'clock on the Pac-12 network, we have Oregon State and California. Oregon State is a 9.5-point favorite. What do you think, Tyler?
Well, it's Alan's favorite team, so yeah, I have to take that into consideration. No, I think Oregon State. Oregon State, I mean, they're pretty good. I don't love it on the road, but I think they win by about 10 points. Oregon State covers and wins.
Okay. Bob?
Give me the Beavers. Win and cover.
I agree with both of you. Final game we have is nightcap 10:30 on ESPN. We have Arizona going against USC. Go ahead, Tower. You can go first.
No, I really had something in my throat. But well, let me ask you this, guys. Do you think USC is going to score a lot of points?
Yes.
Do you think USC is going to give up a lot of points?
Yes.
I got USC covering and winning, by the way.
Oh. So you obviously have USC scoring like 90 points.
84.
I mean, it is possible they do that. That's the thing about USC. No, I have it about 56-38. So Arizona covers. USC wins.
I believe Arizona covers and USC wins. And then I'm going to say for the total score, I will put 95 points.
I have 94.
Okay, because
I got 76 in seriousness.
Well, Tyler, the last time that you were on
I
here,
wish I could bet. I wish I could bet you, Bob, on that one.
I don't gamble.
USC covering smart. USC covering and at only 76 points.
Yeah,
that's some risky stuff right there.
So full disclosure, I was out at dinner last night with three friends. That's as many as I can be around at one time. But they actually all kind of helped me with my picks. So I'm going to be unhappy with my friends from Brookville boys basketball if I am wrong. But they were the ones that helped me out a little bit this week.
We'll keep that in mind. But Tyler, the last time you were on when I made my pick for the tiebreaker, it was 65 points. And for the game, it was 65 points for the total points.
Who was it? Was it North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Good job, man.
So I was happy about that. That was why I remember I sent you that message. Do I get a point for the tiebreaker?
Oh wow, good job.
For the record, the Arizona USC over/under is 72.5.
Okay.
So they're predicting the score. So 21-point victory. They're predicting like a 40. What are they predicting? 40.
You'd be looking at probably like
46-25, right? 46-25.
Yeah, something like. Well, I mean, they just say the over/under is 70.
In what world is USC just? I mean, they are at home. Maybe Alex Grinch like actually wakes up and he's like, you know what? We're playing some defense today. We're getting out. We're going to go out there. We're going to make some plays on defense. No, they're not going to do that. Just give me a break. They're not going to play defense. That's not the USC. That's not the Lincoln Riley way.
You got a better chance of Scott Frost becoming a head coach in the middle of the year. So
I got to mention one thing before we dismiss Michigan State. I read a rumor to where they could be looking at Urban Meyer. Now,
I did see that.
Say this: you're going from Mel Tucker to Urban Meyer, but you're hoping to clean up the image of the school.
Now, I will say Bruce Feldman did disprove that.
Good.
Because, yeah, I saw that too, and I was just cracking up. Who do you think is, if you guys had to pick 3 coaches who might be the next Michigan State coach, who would you pick?
Well, remember, we went over that before because we had picked
Not
the only thing
Meyer.
is, no, but you had picked Leopold, Tyler. I had picked Kindman, but Kindman afterwards, he said that he was not going to be the coach. He said he would not be Kansas State. Yep. So out of the 3 that we picked, I'm the only one who's technically out of the survivor pool because of that.
Well, just because somebody says they're not interested doesn't mean. I mean, Roy Williams said there was no way he was going from Kansas to Carolina. And that didn't work out.
We knew that was crap. I think the guy for Washington State, he's from Wisconsin originally, Jake Dickert.
Okay. I mean, whoever goes there, I hope that they're able to change things up and it becomes positive. I mean, Tucker, he got really lucky when he got that one contract, but then after that, well, can't really say anything. So
there's no way in the world Urban Meyer goes to Michigan State? None.
No.
I don't.
I don't think so.
I think Urban Meyer might coach again. I don't think that's out of the question. But not at Michigan State. Not right now.
No.
I don't think Urban Meyer lives long enough to where Michigan State's a feasible job for him.
If you had to pick a job right now that you could see, because Urban Meyer obviously is a flawed individual at this point in his career, but obviously he won a national title at 2-1-2 at Florida and one at Ohio State. So where is a place in the future that you could see opening up that would take on who he is, knowing that he's a good coach, but obviously some of the baggage?
A group of 5. I'm
Or
thinking
that, or
somebody in CUSA.
I'll take a big risk. I'll say if Ryan Day loses his job, Meyer comes back.
No,
absolutely
not.
No. Let me throw a couple by you guys.
Liberty.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I think Urban Meyer would get a Power 5 job. North Carolina Tar Heels.
Okay.
I don't see them going from one old man to another.
But okay, so North Carolina has always been a team that's like a top 25 level team, gets top 25 talent. They're not a blue blood. They usually don't compete for the national title, but they can play for conference titles and stuff. I could see that being an appealing enough job with enough resources and them also taking the risk because that would be a little bit above who they normally would get.
I understand the logic. I just don't agree with it. So
that's fair.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
North Carolina is probably the one. If I had to say another one that I maybe, well, there's another one I'm thinking off the top of my head, but they just hired a coach, and that's actually someone like Nebraska. But I think obviously Matt Rule's going to be there. I think they're going to give him time to rebuild. I'm trying to think of a job that could open up. See, I don't think A&M will go for Meyer.
Rutgers?
Why would he take that job?
Get a little bit of the New York media market.
No, but the thing is, the last 2 Rutgers coaches have been former Ohio State defensive coaches that have been there. It was Chris and Giano.
Urban Meyer is the head man at Rutgers before he's the head man at Ohio State again.
Oh, I mean, if I was going to pair between the two, I just don't see Urban taking a job like that. I see him taking a job that at least has a possibility of competing for a playoff spot.
Well, and it's probably a situation too, in my opinion, where if you're hiring Urban Meyer, you also have your next coach ready to go after Urban's done, because I don't think Urban's in this thing for the long haul.
Yeah, there's that too.
Is there any Penn State?
No, they won't take a flyer on that. Oh, Urban would take Penn State.
True.
For sure would.
What about Baylor?
No.
You've had two bad cases at Baylor of coaching improprieties.
Yeah, you had Bryles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even back before that, I mean, it's on the basketball side, but you had a murder covered up there. So
yep.
Yeah, I mean, do I think that would be a job Urban would consider? That would be in that realm. Trying to think of another job that, because it has to be a job that could possibly open up.
Georgia Tech?
No.
I can't really see him doing that because Georgia Tech, when Johnson retired, before he retired, they've been doing a triple option for like.
I just thought of one. He played for them. Cincinnati. Because Cincinnati going into the new Big 12, obviously they made the playoffs and the only group of 5 team ever to make the playoffs, and they would be willing to take the risk. And in the new Big 12, with Urban Meyer as a coach, Cincinnati could compete for playoff. I would say Cincinnati and North Carolina. Those are my 2 picks. I think.
No.
I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no to Ole Miss. No, I wouldn't say no.
Why do you say no so quickly, Alan?
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to Ole Miss.
I don't see Lane Kiffin getting fired for a while.
I don't see Lane Kiffin getting fired either, but I see the
see him
Lane
leaving.
train moving out of Oxford.
Yeah. Oh, Lane Train for sure will move out if he's
Yeah.
good enough to go somewhere else. You know who I could see? Let's say things go really sour at LSU, because it's starting to look a little weird here. The second year, I know it's only second year. LSU would take a risk.
It would,
especially after the bombing at the end of the run for Ogeron, and then you're moving on to Kelly, and let's say this end is not working. I could see LSU, and Urban obviously would take LSU in a second.
Come on down, Lane Kiffin.
You think LSU takes Kiffin?
Yep. I think Kiffin's next two spots he would look at would be LSU and Florida State.
How about Alabama?
I don't like to get into the Alabama speculation just because I think that's going to get so. I think Alabama's going to overvalue themselves, and I don't know that Lane Train hits there or not. I don't know. I mean, you might be right, but I
would think he would go there first.
You know who I would not be shocked for Alabama goes for?
Sark.
Nope, a guy who used to play for them. He played for them. He started his coaching career there too.
Not Dabo.
Yep.
Nope, I don't see it.
I could see Dabo finally doing his course at Clemson and saying, "Yeah, I'll go back home and coach at Alabama."
Well, maybe. I mean, what about Kirby?
No, he's from Georgia. Played for Georgia. No.
Georgia a better job than Alabama? I don't know.
It's the same. No, he won't. I
think Clemson and Alabama are the same in Dabo's eyes.
But Clemson. No. Alabama's a little, and he played for Alabama. He's already done. Like, what more can he do for Clemson? He's been the best coach in the history of Clemson.
Good reason to stay. Don't want to get in that Alabama mess. Plus, Dabo's not a youngster anymore either. I mean, if Alabama wants to go a younger route,
50.
I think Dabo's in the back half of 50 though.
Let me look.
I could be wrong.
I'm gonna go 51. You go back half. So you like?
I think he's 56.
I would say he's 54.
53.
Okay.
Oh, you're closest, Alan. Good job. You got that eye for age, don't you?
So how many more years does Saban go?
Not
2 or 3?
Not. I'm actually, the way that his teams have looked the last couple of years, I'm actually saying, you know what? I think maybe he's starting to get a little bit tired of college football. They've not looked as good.
Well, he's not going to the pros.
No, he's done. Okay. He'll retire. I think Saban's about done. I could actually see this being his last year, to be honest with you.
I would.
I know there was a rumor about
Dabo would not go to Alabama. I mean, I understand the logic, and I'm all about where did somebody play, where is somebody from stuff. I get into that more than anybody. But
yes, you do.
When I said Urban Meyer played at Cincinnati, and I mentioned Cincinnati, I saw you're like,
I mean, that is a good thought. Although, you know, I think too, college football, the NFL, everything is such a copycat league. So if older coaches aren't doing the trick at some point, I think people kind of steer away from older coaches. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you go hot coordinators at some point. I have no idea. That's kind of out of my – I mean, I don't know that you hire mid-major guys for major jobs because, you know, I mean, group of 5 because P.J. Fleck, while setting the world on fire at Directional Michigan, has not really set the world on – the boat has not been rowing with consistency in Minnesota.
Even though I'll say he's done better than most coaches in recent memory in Minnesota.
True.
That's not
better
the
than
easiest
most, good enough.
Not the easiest place to win.
Sure, I agree.
Yeah,
here's a question for you guys.
Good.
Who is USC's coach after Lincoln Riley leaves to the NFL this year?
I didn't even think it was Lincoln Riley when Lincoln Riley took it. Dion.
I you know what? I would not rule that out. I totally would not rule that out. He actually does scream a USC coach. Yeah.
Didn't the Lane train make a stop in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
He did. ESPN just did an article about that.
So did Sarkisian.
Yeah, I don't think either one goes back.
No, they won't hire them back. No, if USC hired someone, it'd probably be like Kalen DeBoer from Washington.
Yeah. I mean, I think people would say who so much with that, though. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. Yeah. I know that. But, I mean, USC always has to bring in – USC is one of these places where it always has to bring in a name. We could get into who's the next coach at Notre Dame. I don't know how long Freeman's there for.
We're like going so hypothetical here. We've like fired so many coaches right now. Like coaches that the jobs that I legitimately in the next year or two that I think are going to be open are, I actually really do think Alabama. I actually do think that. See, I think Cincinnati will fire that guy if he doesn't look better in 2 years, because they had a good coach in Fickle if he doesn't look better. So that's why I'm actually really, when I thought of that, I'm like, that's totally an Urban Meyer job.
I got a quick question for you. Where do you live? I don't need a street address, but what state do you live in?
Virginia. Lynchburg.
People think that Virginia Tech and UVA are top echelon ACC jobs, and they're not.
No.
So, but that's my point. Every fan base is unrealistic, which I think spills into the boosters being unrealistic. And that's why people get hired and fired like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, for Meyer, though, it's different.
You have to think
Meyer did that at Utah.
Jimbo Fisher has to be a little warm.
Well, Gus Malzahn got fired, and the buyout, I want to say, was it was either in the 20s or 30s. Maybe even been higher.
It was 30s.
Who would you guys?
I don't have 30 million laying around just to get rid of somebody.
Who would you guys think would be a good candidate? Let's say Jimbo Fisher gets fired, because I think that one's actually a real possibility. Who would you guys think for Texas A&M job?
If they don't pick a big name coach, I could picture taking a defensive coordinator maybe from say Clemson.
What's the cat at Duke?
Alabama or Oregon. Elko. His name, I think, is Elko.
But at what
they're
point
they're not going to take a defensive coordinator, man. That's a top end job in the SEC. They're going to take Mike Elko or Lane Kiffin.
At what point too do you look at maybe Stoops from Kentucky just because he has the name Stoops?
Yeah, he's a good coach.
That could be your USC guy.
I don't see him at USC. I could see him at A&M.
Yeah.
James Franklin at A&M.
James Franklin at USC.
Yeah.
I see him more at USC than A&M.
Dion just reeks of USC, in my opinion. I don't know why.
He does. And I actually think there's a decent possibility Lincoln Riley goes to the NFL.
Oh, I think that's a great possibility.
Because I think he's been for years wondering if his style actually is going to win it in college football. And if he can't win it with Caleb Williams, he didn't win it with Kyler Murray. He didn't win it with Baker Mayfield. He didn't win it with Jalen Hurts. And then if he can't win with possibly the best quarterback in the last decade, I could totally see him jump into, a good situation in the NFL.
Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Whenever that time comes, whenever Dallas comes open, I think Lincoln Riley is on the first plane.
And I think Lincoln Riley would be a good NFL coach.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I actually think it is a better move for him.
But I also thought Carl Durrell at UCLA a few years back would be a good NFL coach too, and that didn't work out.
You did?
I did.
Oh my God, that guy couldn't coach. That guy couldn't coach a warthog to go into.
I think there's a lot of people that can't coach in one level, and then for some reason the NFL makes them either look like a genius or an idiot.
Who would be another guy that could possibly go to the NFL?
Well, Harbaugh's trying to go back.
I don't see Deion as an NFL.
I think it only takes one owner.
So Harbaugh, yes. If that Chargers job opens up, I could totally see him taking that.
I think more people may want Deion over Harbaugh.
Bears have a terrible roster. Harbaugh's a better coach. The thing is, in the NFL, you do need to Like the NFL, you have to be a really, really good coach.
Harbaugh made it to the
You
Super
can't
Bowl with
just
the
be a great
49ers.
You just can't be. No, Harbaugh's a good coach. No, Harbaugh. That's why I said I'm arguing that Harbaugh's more likely to go to the NFL because Harbaugh's a good coach. Dion's a good recruiter. He's a good. I don't think he's a genius.
The stick is going to spill over into the pros. I guarantee it.
I don't see him as an NFL coach. See, I see Lincoln.
I probably don't next year. I'll say that. I don't see it now.
Lincoln Riley doesn't make. It's like, in my opinion, Lincoln Riley is this offensive genius who turns quarterbacks into superstars. Doesn't that scream an NFL coach that can turn a superstar quarterback into a Super Bowl contender? I mean, that just go like just like look what the guy from Miami's doing to Tua, and you see what Sean McVay did with the. I mean, when you get Andy Reid, when you get these really good offensive minds and they get a really good quarterback, they can win 2-3 Super Bowls or be competing for the Super Bowl. And
I think the Rams opens up soon, but I don't think it's a good situation.
No. I mean, why wouldn't Lincoln Riley go to whoever drafts Caleb Williams?
Caleb Williams can make more money in college. He's even said that.
But yeah, but let's say Caleb Williams, but he did say some teams. So let's say the Vikings
are picking the list of the teams.
Yeah, it was like 6 teams.
It was weird though. It was like
it was really the Vikings.
Weird.
When I saw the Vikings on there, I'm like, that's funny. Let's say Vikings opens up with Jordan Jefferson and that wide receiver core with Caleb Williams.
Yeah, you got to get rid of Captain Kirk.
Oh yeah, you get rid of Kirk. So Caleb Williams is the number 1 pick. Lincoln Riley goes there.
I went to the Panthers game this past weekend, and Kirk Cousins looks as bad in person as he does on TV.
How's Bryce Young look?
Probably worse in person than he does on TV. But I think Carolina, is such a situation to where I don't know if there's one hole to fix. I mean, when you're rotating running backs, when your offensive line is probably not NFL caliber across the board, I think Carolina will probably be picking in the top 2 or 3 again.
Yeah.
And I would just say take best available. I mean, picky.
They inherited so the teams that I see right now in the NFL they're teams that are going to be drafting quarterbacks is like the Bears. Clearly that's not working with Justin Fields. I think Vikings, I think you're right. They're drafting a quarterback. Who's another team that has
to? I don't think you.
How about Buccaneers?
Rams.
They're getting close to needing a quarterback. Yeah.
I mean, I think you're getting to the point in the NFL to where it's like I said earlier, it's a copycat league. But I don't think you draft a guy like Bryce Young or whatever and then just start him. Bryce Young probably should not be starting, but there's no other option in Carolina to start.
The problem is
start Red Rifle.
He's just getting beaten up right now, isn't he?
So, I mean, there's no quarterback that's like a Peyton Manning who his first year went into the NFL, started, got the crap beat out of him, and then it turned out good. When you have people getting beat up now, I don't know what good it's doing because they're not to the level where having them get beat up, I don't think it helps, in my opinion.
No.
I mean, you want to say that. Think about how bad David Carr got beat up on his rookie year. I mean, he got destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, his brother now was able to do better, but still.
Not much. I can tell you that.
But still.
Being a Saints fan, I'm not enthralled with Derek Carr.
But look at Joe Burrow, what he was able to do to a terrible team in a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
They also have stuff around him, too.
He did tear his ACL, but they did draft very well. That guy's a good coach.
They had an O-line. They had people around Joe Burrow.
The good offensive coach.
Well, the thing is also the owner had an article on ESPN where they talked about the changes that the Bengals actually made when Burrow was drafted and how they actually were spending money for once because Cincinnati used to never spend money for anybody.
But you do look at some players, and even if their team's not good, you can tell if a quarterback's really going to be able to translate his abilities to the NFL. You know what I'm saying? Is he able to read? Is he able to, it's just a totally different league. Like Justin Fields, I've seen enough of him. That guy's not an NFL quarterback. He was a terrific athlete. He was a very good college player. But where's Justin Fields? Like, where do you see an actually good quarterback, NFL quarterback in his play?
Why was he taken second?
No. Fields is 11th.
Oh, why was he okay? Why was he taken 11th?
Probably because people were thinking that.
That's the problem, though. When you have people in the NFL taking these guys in the top 15 or earlier that are not ready for prime time type of thing and need probably about 3 or 4 years of development, I don't think Bryce Young's a franchise quarterback. I don't.
No, I don't either.
And
he's too little.
Number one.
Yeah. But look at how CJ Stroud is looking in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
The epitome of all this is Mitch Trubisky was taken number 2, and he's already on team number, I think, 3 or 4.
3 or 4, yeah.
And if you look at his numbers in Chicago, they're not terrible. I mean, in terms, the wins losses are not good, but if you look at the passing yard numbers and all that, they're not bad. But I don't know what NFL people are looking at when they draft college players. Are they looking at? I have no idea.
Well, in my opinion, and I'm not a professional, this is from my amateur perspective. There's some quarterbacks that you could just see they can read. They're able to, manipulate the pocket. They're able to make plays out of structure. They're able to see the field. Like for instance, Justin Fields, when you saw him in college, didn't you just always see Allen? Right? You watched every game of Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you always just see a guy that was an amazing athlete that would out athletic people? Did you ever see him like really reading defenses and making difficult plays and difficult throws in tight windows? And where it was just like, this is a really good quarterback. Did you see that? Or did you just see a guy that was a terrific athlete making just like, he's a good athlete on a really good team?
I mean, there were a few games where I could say that I definitely saw that. One of them was against Clemson in the college football playoff, where he was able to make some of those throws, but you didn't always see that. You saw him mostly rely on his athleticism. And I mean, being a great athlete, you expected that. And also, there are other players there who, whenever he would have maybe not the easiest or best game, they would always be able to make plays to back him up. So that way, I mean, there were a lot of blowouts. But the thing is, for Ohio State, when those happen, usually they have their players switched out and you have your second or third team in, usually by the second half, depending on how fast the score is up or how much they're up by.
So did you think he was going to be a good NFL quarterback?
I mean, I wanted him to be, but I didn't really expect that was going to happen. Oh, man. Jacksonville State just got another touchdown.
But for instance, couldn't you see that Joe Burrow was just going to be a good NFL quarterback?
I saw the potential there.
Now I think we're getting into our pocket passers better than mobile quarterbacks.
I just think you could see, yeah. I mean, I think or guys that at least have the ability to stay in the pocket and read defenses. If you can't read a defense, you're not just going to out athletic everyone in the NFL all the time.
Because they're fast too.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar Jackson has done it to a certain extent because he's probably one of the most phenomenal athletes you'll ever see in your life. But even him, he's having trouble staying healthy, right? And that's a problem. Like a Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson, who are like the greatest, like by far the best athlete on every field that they ever play on. Even them end up getting hurt because it's tough to take that punishment in the NFL.
So when Michael Vick got drafted, my first response was Temple and Rutgers don't play in the NFL.
It's true.
And that's not to knock Vick, but the speed of the game when you're playing defenses, especially on the line and linebackers, you're not playing what you would play at Temple or Rutgers or places like that.
Would that concern you a little bit about Caleb Williams?
I mean, I didn't think Jalen Hurts would be what he is, so apparently I know nothing.
True. Same. I did not see, but he is a heck of a worker. Can't ever discount someone who has that kind of work ethic. But Caleb Williams, he does rely quite a bit on his physical talent. Is that concerning to you? Would you rather go with a Drake May? Would you rather go with a Quinn Ewers?
Well, I mean, if Lincoln Riley's going to be such a good NFL coach, then I think Caleb Williams can probably translate. I mean, because and that gets into me. How many professional quarterbacks has XYZ coach developed? I mean, Sark played in college quarterback. He coached in the NFL. I have no doubt that Sark can't develop somebody. But, once you get them developed, I mean, I don't want to say they're unlearning everything they learned in college, but I think probably the learning curve in the NFL is 10 times you're seeing in college. And you've got quarterback camps and, all this stuff. It's basically like, how smart are you? I mean, you don't have to be book smart. Book smart and football smart are two different games. So I don't know if that answered your question at all there, but I mean, I think it probably depends on the kid. I don't know how smart May is.
Yeah, I mean, from what I think and what I see of May, I think he's a guy that I'd be very surprised if he's not at least solid NFL quarterback.
Right.
I see a guy who reads defense as well. He can put the ball anywhere on the field. He doesn't make a lot of foolish mistakes. There's not a lot of those plays that's like, wow, Drake May just relied on his freaky athleticism because that's such a stupid play. That's when I worry about them in college to the pros, is when you see a play and you're like, oh my goodness, that was a really stupid play, but they were just that athletic. Like, I wasn't surprised that Justin Fields was not a great NFL quarterback, to be honest with you. I just always saw a guy that I was like, man, he really relies on just being bigger, faster, and a better athlete than everyone on the field.
Was that where the Bears traded up with the Giants to get the quarterback?
Did they?
I want to say that was I could be wrong.
No, I think you're right.
It was, I'm pretty sure.
And you gave up a first-round pick the next year. So essentially, you're saying Justin Fields is worth 14 picks higher than where you were going to draft, plus a first-round pick next year.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I didn't think Jalen Hurts was going to be a good NFL quarterback. So what do I know?
It just depends on the situation and the player. I mean, another one I thought of that was thought about him when we were talking. It was one who we thought was going to be a great athlete. Liberty's Malik Willis. How many times have you seen him get on the field in games right now? And even when he was on the games in preseason, instead of throwing passes, he was just running around for his life, it seemed like most of the time. Till Vrabel finally said, look, get out. We're eventually you putting someone else in.
I mean, to be fair, he was the third-round pick. So if you're drafting someone in the third round, you don't necessarily think that they're going to be. I mean, I think Malik Willis is what I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people thought Malik Willis slid too, because this is going to be a guy picked in latter first, early second. He went to third. But again, my thing is, and I've shared this before, when you're doing all that running around, you're inviting your offensive line to get a penalty.
Yeah.
I mean, just big time, because if you're running around, I mean, and there's holding on every play, but I think it almost has to get to a blatant hold to keep your quarterback from getting put into next week.
Let's just say I'm not surprised that Malik Willis has not been a very successful NFL quarterback. As good as he was in college, it was pretty obvious he relied on his physical talent.
Agree.
He was very good. He was very good, one of the best players in Liberty history. But I'm not surprised that he's not been a great NFL quarterback. I mean, it'll be curious. There's definitely some good talent this year. And it's hard to project. I mean, those guys that have to scout NFL quarterbacks, they have to make a lot of money, because that is obviously worth everything to a franchise. If you hit at the quarterback position, you're going to be a perennial playoff contender. You can win a Super Bowl. If you don't, you're not. Right?
I still think up front matters more.
But what team in recent memory did not have a very good quarterback to win the Super Bowl?
No, you're right. I mean, Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
But you had a defense that was just out of this world.
Outstanding, yeah.
So, I mean,
and you
I
can
agree
have
with what you're saying.
and I agree, you can have a great quarterback, and if they have a horrible offensive line
Right.
and you don't have good weapons, you will waste that talent.
Sure.
Like think of there's a quarterback that I was thinking of recently. Well, think of Andrew Luck even.
Yeah.
Think of Andrew Luck, how good he was, but he just never had a good offensive line. And he ended up retiring because he's like, I'm not pulling up with this crap. And that was one of the best talents to ever play, come from college to the pros. I even look at Trevor Lawrence right now, and that offensive line still is a problem. And that's why Trevor Lawrence, while he's, you can still see this great potential, I don't think he's playing quite to his abilities because his offensive line is horse crap. So you can't just expect, and even Joe Burrow tore his ACL and he's been injured this year because they still do have offensive line problems. So the problem is when you don't have a good offensive line, you do run the risk of your quarterback getting injured a lot and you end up wasting a very good talent.
I think you have to draft your quarterback and your line similar, whatever the word is.
Simultaneously.
Yeah, because if you draft a offensive line that's a pass protecting offensive line, but then you go draft Malik Willis, not to pick on Malik as quarterback, you haven't done anything because Malik's going to run around or if you draft a big offensive line that's just lumbering, but they can't move, and you draft a mobile quarterback, well, what'd you do that for?
True.
Because it's not going to work. But if you draft a quarterback that's just going to stay in the pocket all the time, but you draft a fast offensive line, what have you done? Nothing.
Yeah. And you do see, and that is the problem I see with actually a lot of the even good quarterbacks today. I look at like even Justin Herbert, my dude. It's just like, man, his offensive line half the time, the guy has to make up for them. Josh Allen even.
True.
Like how many I mean, you got someone like Mahomes, who I guess you don't need to have the perfect offensive line play because he's such a good he ad libs so well. But for the most part, if you don't block for that quarterback, no matter what the talent you have, it's just, and it also, you look at what New England did for so long with Tom Brady with their offense, which allowed the easy outlets, being able to work the slots, and so there is amount of it's play calling, it's offensive line play, and then it's quarterback talent.
Yeah, I'm not going to get deep into this, but I think if you've got a guy like Mahomes that can ad lib, you better have your offensive line that can ad lib too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good.
Yeah, we're way off football. Alan's like, I'm done with this.
Well, I mean, for me, it's given me a chance to keep track of the game, and
I'm all in on USC. He's probably like throwing it all.
He's been studying the Pac-12 like a madman.
No, I'm not going to take Tyler's job away from him for one more year. That's okay. But other coach we didn't talk about that could move for a different job?
Who?
Chip Kelly.
He's a wild card.
Yeah, you never know with him.
I don't know that he could move to a higher job, honestly. But, I mean, who knows? I mean, he conned the Eagles.
Think about it. Imagine if he went from UCLA to USC.
No, I don't see that.
No. He's not USC.
Chip Kelly ain't no youngster.
That's true, but a lot of the coaches you're seeing right now in college football, there are many that are at least in their 40s or 50s.
Well, 40s isn't that old, first off.
True, but it just...
Yeah. How old are you, Bob?
44.
See, Alan over here talking trash in his third.
I'm only 39, sir.
I mean, if you've got a coach that's past 55, I think that's where you're getting into the old. Not to insult any of my 55-year-old or older friends, but I think that's where you're getting into the maybe not going to move, maybe not going to look for. But I mean, once you hit 60, if you're hiring a 60-year-old, you're hiring to win now and not worried about, I mean, like Mac Brown, when UNC hired Mac Brown to come back, that wasn't we're looking at the future of the program for 2030 type thing, because Mac Brown's not going to be there.
No, just like for Liberty back when I was a student there, when they rehired Randy Dunn. It's where they're trying to get him back to their glory years and see what happens. And sometimes that experiment works and sometimes it doesn't.
I still don't think. I think most of the time when people go home again, it's not a good idea.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That's why I don't see like Urban Meyer going back to Ohio State or things like that. It just, I mean, if you had success there the first time, that's great. Remember it for what it is.
Now, I will admit one example recently that's actually turned out decent. Mac Brown going back to North Carolina. That was a long break because he coached for them in the late 90s, and then he came back obviously like 5 years ago. And I think they've been better. I think North Carolina's been better, and they've been at least competitive in the ACC and stuff. So I would say that's one example of someone that came back home. But yes, for the most part, I would agree.
Out of how many, though? I mean, like, I hear what you're saying, but there's one example out of about 15 to 20.
I think it would, because what made it unique was Mac Brown. How long did he leave Texas? How long was it? Like 6-7 years.
Right. Well, he was doing TV.
Yeah. So he took a long break. He took a long break. So that would be someone like, and this would be an argument for Urban Meyer to host. Let's say Urban Meyer in like 5 years, they move on from Ryan Day.
It depends on how he does against Michigan.
Urban Meyer will be in his 70s, at least, maybe closer to 80.
Okay, who's a coach that was a pretty good coach that's retired right now? Can you guys think of one offhand was a pretty good coach that's retired right now?
Urban Meyer is 59, by the way. So
I'll give you one. I'll actually get
pretty good.
Mike Bellotti.
Oh, that's a long time. He's been retired for 15 years. I got one right now. Dan Mullins. He's been retired for a few years. He's been gone from college football for a couple of years. Let's say 2 years from now, Mississippi State. This guy's pretty bad. I don't think they hired the interim. Let's say Mississippi State opens back up. Why would they not hire Dan Mullen back?
Okay.
Did Dan Mullen retire or get fired?
Got fired.
Okay. So we're just talking somebody that is no longer employed.
Yeah, but was a good coach that could probably get a job somewhere. Like Mullen was a pretty good coach for most of his career.
I mean, I always thought Art Briles was going to get another job. I really did.
Yeah,
I really did. And not in the community college level.
What happened there was pretty bad, though.
Well, it was, but I mean, I think Urban Meyer's got a lot of atomic bombs attached to him right now too. I mean,
oh, for sure.
Mullen might be the best one I can think of too. Mark Richt, but he's not coming back to coach because he's got Parkinson's.
No. Yeah, it's Parkinson's, and it's getting really bad too. By the way,
I'm trying to think of if there was anybody Larry.
I got one. Ken Karcher.
No.
Larry that guy should not be allowed around football. Like if it involves like from first grade, like literally preschool on up in football, Ken Karcher should not be allowed to facilitate that kind of thing. The guys. No, I think So Dan Mullen, couldn't you see him having a marriage again with Mississippi State?
It's possible.
That's a different situation, though, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because
it kind of is.
Your coach died, and that's why you have hired the other guy so late in the game.
Here's one. He's currently the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. He was a pretty successful coach early on in his career. Bobby Petrino. And remember, he went back to Louisville. And that's an example. He went back to Louisville, and that was a failure. But could you see him coming back in like 2 years?
Gosh, I don't know who I'd rather have, Urban Meyer or Bobby Petrino.
Oh, Meyer.
I mean, just give me death. I'll take the third door.
Well, I mean, that right now with the Michigan State situation, they brought Mark D'Antonio back on staff.
I think Mel Tucker gets another job.
Doing what?
Coaching football.
Like Schoolboy football?
That was a good one. No, I think time heals most wounds. This one, Mel Tucker might have to get the whole I'm an assistant type deal or whatnot, but I think Mel Tucker.
Oh, he'll be assistant, all right. No, I was kidding. No,
dude,
I got that.
Let me say one thing real quick. When I was talking about Carl Durrell earlier, the reason I thought Carl Durrell would be in the NFL was because of the Rooney Rule. So,
yep.
I think, does that help Mel Tucker? Doesn't hurt.
I mean, and Mel Tucker is a pretty good coach. He's a pretty good coach. Pretty egregious what he did, but yes, he's a pretty good coach.
Would you see a Mel Tucker or a Deion Sanders coaching in the NFL first?
Neither.
Deion.
Well, I'm saying pick somebody like Mel Tucker or pick somebody like Deion. What type of coach goes to the NFL first?
I think, who do I think would be a better NFL coach? Mel Tucker.
Well, I just said, who do you think would go first? I didn't say, who do you think would be better?
I just don't think Deion is an NFL coach.
I'm saying, but anybody that would do like what Deion did, like if Ed Reed was at Bethune-Cookman, if that had worked out, I'm saying a past player who does a lot of bravado or a minority who does not bring, trying to figure out a way to say this, does not bring that type of attention to themselves. I'm not saying they're a scuzz bucket, but I'm just saying like a James Franklin maybe. Or somebody of that ilk. Franklin's a bad example because he's probably more well-known. But somebody, maybe like a David Shaw when he was at Stanford. Somebody like that. Or someone. Deion, an Ed Reed, a person like that.
Hey, actually, it's weird that you brought that up. I could see David Shaw ending up in the NFL still.
See, I think some of these guys are aging out.
I always wondered why David Shaw did not leave Stanford to go to the NFL. I thought he would be a good NFL coach.
He stayed there too long.
He did. I don't see Franklin in the NFL. I'm sorry. I don't think of James Franklin. So James Franklin is black, right?
He's not white.
Okay. Is he part black?
I think I know that one of the guys that's impersonated him on game day before has been
Keegan Mike and Pill.
Yeah.
I think he probably is. But you have to admit that's a little. You have to Google it a little bit.
I still think he's going to be at USC, so I don't think there's any point.
James Franklin's a good coach. So so we're just mentioning minority coaches. James Franklin's the best coach. I mean, look what he's done at Penn State.
All right, James Franklin was a bad example that I threw out. So we're saying a notch below James Franklin or a Deion Sanders type. I'm not saying Deion, but a guy that's got the bravado, a guy that's got the flash, or a guy like a David Shaw, somebody that just coaches football. Who would you see going to the NFL first? Bravado or coaching?
Coaching.
You're going to get attention with Deion, though.
But in the NFL, it really is about, man, what coaches like Deion has ever been an NFL coach?
You got to have a first for everything.
Jerry Glanville with the Falcons.
Much lesser degree, but I would probably agree with that a little bit.
Or June Jones, you could say.
No, I would say Jerry Glanville.
June's great, yeah.
I don't think June Jones had maybe even a John Gruden, I would say, had more of the flair than June Jones did.
But college, you can. I mean, there's
Rex
a lot
Ryan.
of who?
Rex Ryan. When he was in the NFL.
He was a defensive genius, so.
I don't think Rex got weird though until like the very end, and I think that Rex got weird because they started losing.
Yeah, and he was a pretty good. See, I just don't think Deion is necessarily an X's and O's systematic. It really is about this Deion Sanders, prime time, this persona, and he hires good coordinators around him. But what coach in the NFL is not like an excellent something when it comes to systematic coaching? X's and O's on either the offense or defensive side of the ball.
I'd have to think about that one.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas college, if you're just as this personality and ability to recruit, like even Dabo, look at the Dabo. Dabo's not a ace. It's all about Dabo as this person, like his ability to recruit and to get a culture. I don't think Dabo would have been a good NFL coach.
Nick Saban wasn't a good NFL coach either. So I mean,
and Saban at least was a really good defensive mind. He was a great defensive back coach. So, and even Urban, look at Urban. Look at what a massive failure he was. But in the NFL, they always are really almost genius on one side of the ball. Like Andy Reid.
The last African American coach that I could think of that was there that would be considered a defensive genius, Jim Caldwell. He was with the Colts and with the Lions.
Did you say defensive genius?
Yeah, Jim Caldwell.
No, Jim Caldwell was more of an offensive genius.
Right.
Yeah.
He was actually here from Peyton. That's right.
Jim Caldwell took the reins from Dungy. Dungy was your defensive genius.
That's right.
So, yeah, that's probably – I'm trying to think if there's been anybody since then. I'm sure somebody is out there. Steve Wilkes was not a great NFL coach, but he got a interim tag. And I know a lot of people, from what I heard in Carolina, wanted him over Frank Reich. But I'm trying to think of somebody that's lasted. But yeah, that's a good call, Alan, of Jim Caldwell.
You know who actually a minority? So are we just looking at minority coaches right here?
Yeah,
the guy who got
this thing is broken down so much. I don't know what we're looking at.
The guy who got fired from the Miami Dolphins is an excellent defensive coach.
Oh, Brian
Flores.
Yeah,
Brian Flores.
Little extracurricular on his end, though. I think
it must have been something because the guy actually is a really good coach.
Do you not remember what happened? Text messages being leaked and all that stuff about Miami. Miami was apparently a crap show anyway, but it was like text messages being leaked. They wanted to fire Brian Flores. He leaks the text messages to Belichick. It got bad.
Oh, I didn't know that. Why did they want to fight? Why because he drafted Tua over Herbert?
I don't remember. But everybody said Eric Bieniemy. They don't understand why Eric Bieniemy is not an NFL coach about what he's done with Mahomes, what he did with Mahomes in KC.
Yeah, a couple different things. He had some off-field stuff. One and two, Andy Reid is a pretty good offensive.
Some people said he didn't interview well. So Eric Bieniemy went to Colorado. He certainly wouldn't have the.
But one of the most successful coaches in the NFL right now is a minority. Mike Tomlin's been arguably, other than Bill Belichick, the most consistently good coach of the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Belichick, Reid, and Tomlin. And what was Tomlin? A great defensive mind.
Yep.
I also like Bowles. He's a good coach.
Yeah, everybody thought Raheem Morris was going to be the next thing too, and that didn't really work out.
We live holy. This is the biggest rat. Alan, does this have anything to do with? I think for the last half an hour to 45 minutes, have we mentioned one thing about college? Oh, we mentioned about job openings.
Justin Fields. We talked about how quarterbacks in college.
Justin Fields just put this thing in the total wrong direction. I just went on this spiel about how Justin Fields was obviously never going to be a good NFL coach. Coach, man, I'm getting tired. Never a good NFL.
I don't know where we went.
He probably won't. He probably won't be a good NFL coach either. But he's definitely not a good NFL. So, random question: what NFL quarterback's going to be the best NFL coach?
Andy Dalton. I don't know that that's the thing too. When you
he's an untalented.
The ego. The ego of a starting quarterback. Are they going to want to take, I mean, everybody sees what quarterbacks are doing. I mean, Peyton and Eli have their own show, for heaven's sake. So I don't think anybody's going to become a starting quarterback. I'm trying to think of the last starting quarterback that became an NFL head coach, and I can't even think of one.
I mean, Frank Wright was
backup for the most part.
Harbaugh.
Yeah, that's probably the only one I can think of. Well, I didn't think of it. You thought of it, and you just told me.
But if you went old school, you could say Otto Graham.
The whole point is there's not a lot. We've named 3 out of probably 550 NFL quarterbacks.
I mean, there's some good call. Like, if you go to the college ranks, you go like Josh Heupel.
Yeah.
Good college quarterback, good college coach.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard.
Scott Frost. He was good at UCF. UCF.
So, Tyler, I got 3 minority coaches. You could say.
Steve Spurrier.
You got Taggart. You got Strong. Someone and bonus one, Randy Shannon.
Who was the first one I was talking?
Willie Taggart.
Who's the best of those 4?
Who was the second?
No, but I'm saying Charlie Strong.
So what was the question?
Someone.
What was the question?
Because we were trying to think about for minority coaches. Those would be the ones who I could see if they were going to jump to the NFL. I don't know if they would last, but if they were going to jump, those would be probably the 4 that you could look at.
They can jump all right. they might be floating in the air a little long. Who would take those 4 hot messes?
Yeah, but you got to interview 2, if I'm not mistaken, with the Rooney Rule.
Correct.
Which I find somewhat insulting that, hey, we're going to interview the special teams coach. And don't get me wrong, they get jobs. But the special teams coach, who we know is not going to have a shot in Hades of getting this NFL job, but we got to interview him.
I mean, when I think of if we're just going to go, so it just seems to be, are we saying minority coach to the NFL? You want me to guess a minority coach to the NFL? Who do I want
you to name one out of those 4 who you think would go?
Those are all awful. What would you? They're not going to hire those guys as head coaches.
Charlie Strong would be my choice out of those 4
to be a head coach.
Yep. I've got 4 choices, not 5.
He's a hot disaster. So my cousin was a GA under him. The guy was terrible. So I have a hard time being thinking that. And then Taggart, I heard of what happened with him at Florida State. And so then who's the other 2?
Kevin Sumlin
literally let Johnny Manziel destroy the Texas A&M program, the culture. So those 3, and then who's the last one?
Randy Shannon.
I mean, by process of elimination, I know either through my family member working for one, what I heard at Florida State and what I heard at A&M, the only person that he's a good guy. He was not a very good coach at Miami, but I guess I'll take Randy Shannon.
Is Kevin Sumlin still coaching?
I don't think so.
Because, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he got fired from what? Was it Arizona? Or Arizona State?
Arizona.
You get fired from Arizona, a bottom of the rung Pac-12 program. I don't care what color you are. It's going to be hard, I think, to translate into the NFL.
He won 0 games his last year.
Carl Durrell won 4 games than that at UCLA. I can promise you that.
He's an associate head coach, co-offensive coordinator, and tight ends coach to the University of Maryland right now.
Okay.
And Tyler, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but when it comes to minority coaches besides Tomlin, the last one I can think of that was besides Dungy as well, Art Shell. Both times he was with the Raiders, he had been a guard there or a center, and I mean, he was able to parlay his coaching career or his playing career into a coaching career, and he survived at the Raiders with Al Davis. That says something right there.
Why don't you ask the 44-year-old person about a guy that coached in the 80s? I'm just wondering.
Oh, Doug Williams.
Doug Williams never coached in the NFL.
No, I only coached the Grambling.
Who am I thinking? Yeah, who am I thinking of? Sorry, my bad.
Well, Bob, what do you think about our show?
Are you thinking Dennis Green?
Dennis Green is actually probably, I would rank Dennis Green over Art Shell.
The late Dennis Green.
Yep.
Just like the late Art Shell. No, just because I pulled it up on Wikipedia for the different coaches who are in American football. So,
I mean, if I was going to pick one minority coach, so this is probably a more interesting question to ask. If I was going to pick one minority coach who I think in college football right now, who I think is the best, and who if he did go to the NFL, he probably would do fine. Is James Franklin. He is, by the way, he's half black, half white.
I don't think Art Shell's dead, by the way. So,
Alan's trying to kill Art Shell.
You know what? I apologize. You're right. I apologize.
So, because when you're talking about the late Art Shell, I'm thinking, man, did I miss ESPN one day? Because I mean, granted, they cover all the NFL stuff. I mean, I might be able to miss a baseball or basketball death.
Talk about just getting rid of a guy for the sake of it,
man. Alan, that's going to be a trivia question I'm going to ask you about Art Shell next time.
I bet you are.
He just killed a dude. Dude's dead.
Poor Art Shell.
Mistakes happen, gentlemen.
I could have at least tried to keep Dennis Green alive.
Name 5 coaches in the history of the Raiders for me, Alan.
Gruden, McDaniel, Shell.
No, you can't name Art Shell. You killed him. Name 5 living coaches.
Oh.
Lane Train.
No, hold on. Well, besides Lane Train,
he did coach in the NFL.
Shanahan, yep, he did. I
totally forget that.
Shanahan. Let's see. I killed him. Gruden. Let's see.
Bill
McDaniels. Oh, yeah, that was Callahan.
Will Lane Kiffin ever go back to the NFL?
Yes.
Oh. For the right job, maybe.
Well, I mean, is it Lane's choice or somebody else's?
Will he decide to forsake his love for co-heads to go back to the NFL?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you can get rats in the big leagues. Well, okay. If you want to find me on Twitter, probably don't after all this mess.
Oh, dude, I have a story about Lane Kiffin, but I'm not going to tell it on here. A first-hand account of what a sleazeball that guy is.
All the more reason he could go to the NFL.
Oh, my God. Oh, Lane.
Do you want your NFL notoriety to be, I coached Jamarcus Russell?
Okay, what coach? Here's a better. So we've named all these coaches, and how many jaded coaches are there specifically in college football? Like, how many coaches are actually decent human beings that coach in college football?
I mean,
that would be a good question. We'd have to look up.
I would think Dabo's decent human being. I haven't heard any bad words.
I'm gonna hold my tongue on that one.
Well, I'm not in this. I'm not in the inside.
I'd say a third of the coaches. Let's say a third.
Are you just talking Power 5?
I think Mario Cristobal's a decent guy by all accounts.
I don't think Tony Elliott's had time enough to be a bad guy. I don't think Brent Pry's a bad guy that I've heard.
Brett Venables.
Hugh.
Okay. Alan's like on that
one. Nope. Well, I'm not going down this road, gentlemen. No, thank you. But, gentlemen, it is about time for us to wrap up because we've done this for almost 2 hours today.
Yeah. I wanted a quick one.
Good luck getting up early.
I know.
Tyler.
We didn't even talk. We talked about 20 minutes college football, and then.
No, we talked about 15 minutes of the Pac-12, 15 minutes of picks, 15 minutes of Urban Meyer, and then whatever's left of the NFL and minority coaches.
Yeah, that's fine. And then we went to what coaches are good people.
Right.
I mean, unfortunately, seeing how we've seen for different situations in college, this comes up, and it goes off the rails sometimes, but we we do see in different situations for college football, not only for Mel Tucker, but for Lane Kiffin and multiple other head coaches. We're seeing different things happen, not only between the coaches, but also the players, just for whether it's gambling or other situations. The last thing I do want to bring up for college, I don't know if you guys saw this. They changed the rules for the for the transfer portal to where it's only going to be 45 days now. It's 30 days after the end of the college football season, and then 15 days after the spring games, I believe, is what the NCAA said, because they were trying to get it down to 30, whereas they were going for 60, but they met in the middle of 45. They announced
It
that today.
always works from going from no rules to rules. That's the greatest thing you can. I mean, that's parenting advice 101 right there.
Oh yeah, but no, what it is too is because the train wreck that is NIL, they're trying now to crack down on that as well. So they use this as a stepping stone to try to figure out how they're going to set up rules for that, since the NCAA right now is a joke, like we talked about before. They're trying to act like, oh, well, we were going to make these decisions, but instead of actually trying to do the decisions, I mean, Mark Emmert, as he left, made it to where the NIL happened. Because before him, Miles Brand, if he had been alive and not died, Miles Brand would have come in and dealt with the situation, but he would have made sure that the NIL would have had rules, because when he was the head of the NCAA, he was a dictator, but he made sure that the NCAA ran like a well-oiled machine. Granted, he had to deal with the BCS, but when it came to any issues for the NCAA, he knew how to handle it and take care of it. And unfortunately, after he died, the NCAA has not been the same since. And that's why, as we're watching for college football and other sports, we're seeing they're trying to still play it by ear. And unfortunately, half the time it's more just watching who's going to shoot themselves in the foot first and how are we going to try to fix it or adapt and figure out the best way to keep going for all sports.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion, but that's what I've seen.
When does the NCAA take their hands off college football and say, run it on your own?
Never.
Oh.
It should, but never.
Who said never?
But see, I said never, because
that guy
what's
did.
going on?
Don't put that on me.
No, I'll take it. I'll own it. But here's the thing for that.
I think it gets. I think they get split up
until they leave. Okay, well, until the NCAA disbands, or other schools finally get sick of the NCAA does not want to give up that or March Madness, because that is how they make their money every year. Between the college football playoff and March Madness,
I could see the college football playoff going off to their own entity.
I don't think March Madness is the cash cow that college football is.
It's not.
I would say by the time Bob is 50, the NCAA is not ruling college football.
College football, I agree.
No way.
And then, therefore, like all these weird alignments that they did with conferences will be not applicable.
Right. Well, when you have 28 teams in a conference.
And like teams from literally New York all the way to Washington.
I'm with you. Eventually, we're going to have geographic conferences for the Olympic sports. I truly 100%, outside of football and basketball and maybe baseball, but I'm reluctant to say that. Outside of football and basketball, I think you're going to have geographical conferences or something, because it's no point.
Yeah.
It is no point for a team from Virginia, whether it's Liberty, JMU, William & Mary, I don't care who, to go to Arkansas for a tennis match or to go to Indiana for a softball game.
Yeah.
No point. That's even worse.
Yeah, imagine
go 4 states. You're going
like Stanford going all the way to North Carolina for women's tennis.
Florida State going to BC for women's soccer. And I'm not trying to pick on women's soccer, women's tennis, or anything like that. I'm just saying it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
That you're spending money to transport one team from another. And I'm not the expert on this because I don't know how college athletics work in terms of the dollar figures, but I can believe that is a huge gap in the red that you would not need to take if you weren't doing this silly malarkey.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. I don't think it's sustainable at all. I mean, football, because you're only doing it's even when you think about it in football, you're like, man, Stanford's going to be playing at Duke. It's like that's a conference game. You think it's ridiculous, right? But then it's only a couple times.
I don't think it's ridiculous for football. If you want to travel across country for football,
but for your conference,
no, I agree. I'm with you.
It's like for a
but when the NCAA is not ruling this, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. It's completely not sustainable for any sport outside of football and basketball. And even in football and basketball, I eventually see them being like, let's go back to like having these regional leagues.
I don't think so for football. I think football, the monster is out of the hat, and I don't think we ever kill it. Basketball, maybe. But again, the Olympic sports. Let's say you make $4 million off a football game, hypothetically, and you're going to spend $125K of money to send a team from Florida to Maine or Massachusetts. Why? That's a waste of $125,000. If you make it maybe $20,000, that can make sense to me. But if you've grossed $4 million and you're wasting $125K on an Olympic sport, just travel, I don't see the point. I don't.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Here's what the NCAA is right now. I've got an acronym for it this time, Bob, and it actually fits. No choice, actually authentic, because everything they do, it messes up. That'll we find out after the fact what they should have done, but instead, with how they set it up, it makes it not make sense. Because like you guys are talking about, for the different traveling, for what's going on, how you're going from next year, it's going to be going from USC to Ohio State or to Rutgers for for some sort of event. Now, like you said, if it's football, okay, but like for the other sports, logistically, it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, can you just imagine Stanford playing Wake Forest in underwater basket weaving?
Oh,
just
God.
traveling all the way to the ocean to just
makes no sense whatsoever. And anybody that can make sense out of it, please tweet me at the Sports Buffet, and I will talk to you for however. I'll let you talk for 20 minutes just to hear how it makes sense.
All the effort I've put in watching underwater basket weaving over all these years, and I have to experience this cross-Pacific Atlantic rival. I just can't do it anymore.
I always enjoyed your emails on the underwater basket weaving invitationals. They were great to me.
Right, Alan? Yeah.
They were something. They were something indeed. I mean, although if we were going to talk about something underwater, I do prefer synchronized swimming, but that's just
true. But imagine that. They have to travel all the way from Stanford, Palo Alto, all the way to Wake Forest, Raleigh-Durham. Winston-Salem, just to do synchronized swimming. I mean, come on. They could have done synchronized swimming against UCLA in Southern California.
Well, I mean, did you watch only because I saw this at the end of last year, the beach volleyball championships? Do you know where they were held last year?
Where?
Louisiana.
Smith Mountain Lake?
They were actually
Louisiana.
Yep.
Where?
When I think beach volleyball, Louisiana just pops out in my head.
Yeah, I know.
Great beaches down there.
I'm just like, I just want to head down there.
No. Because it was
the alligators hanging out.
No. That was why for me when I was watching it at the end of last year, and I was like, Gulf Shores, Louisiana, what? Huh? Because that didn't make any sense to me. But I mean, it just depends. Last game we got to talk about. Is Liberty going to win tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Against Sam Houston? Yeah. By a couple touchdowns. Easily.
Okay,
but it could be a look ahead. It could be a look ahead. It might not be a crushing victory. It'll be a victory, but it could be a look ahead because you got to play on Tuesday.
Yeah, and they have to play their next couple. The next couple road games are their two toughest games: Jacksonville State and Western Kentucky.
But I do like Jamie Chadwell. I do like Jamie Chadwell as a human being from what I've heard.
Does he stay around?
Yes, I think he's actually one of the coaches I've heard about from Liberty. It seems like he wants to be there. And I can't say that for everybody that's going to the Mountain. I can't say they've all wanted
Does he want it enough if all of a sudden a job like Tennessee opens up?
I mean, I would say look at Billy Napier. Has Billy Napier been a success story from a school almost the equivalent of Chadwell's, and he's gone to a Power 5? I don't think Billy Napier gets a B rating at this point.
Would Jamie Chadwell say no to Florida?
I don't know. I mean, I think Jamie Chadwell, with the resources they have at Liberty, I think they're going to trump a lot of other resources, or they can at least compete. Probably not an SEC, but, I think they can compete. So I think Chadwell is different from his predecessor. I think he wants to be there. I don't see him picking up and leaving for, Auburn or any school like that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, too, and I don't say this to be mean, but who's going to really go after Jamie Chadwell? That's the other key. I think you'd have to see who would come after him to see if he would leave.
I mean, he's a heck of a coach. I mean, he definitely will get.
He's not going to Michigan State.
No. I mean, I just have a hard time seeing a coach turn down a Power 5 job, especially what you can make financially and what you can compete for. You compete for college football playoffs and just the financial mobility and the chance to compete at the very highest level.
I don't want to say you have lifelong immunity in Lynchburg, but I think it would take a lot to get somebody canned at Liberty as long as they win 7 or 8 a year.
Which he will. I mean, right. I'm very convinced he will. And the thing is, I think Liberty has enough resources and stuff that no matter if coaches keep on moving up to the Power 5, I still think this is a good spot to always have a good coach coming in.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, and you're going to get I think you're going to get, I don't want to say Mel Tucker's, but I think you're going to get the person that needs a rebirth.
We're going to get Mel Tucker, aren't we?
Because that's what the predecessor, he needed a rebirth, and it worked out for him.
Could Carl Durrell's rebirth be Liberty?
Probably not at this point. I think Carl Durrell, his rebirth might be a high school, but
is Willie Taggart's rebirth Liberty?
I mean, how old's Willie Taggart?
Oh, he's not old.
So maybe. But see,
he was really bad at Fort Atlantic, though.
But the other thing too about this, and I know it's not like it maybe was, but I think the faith element does play in.
Yeah,
at Liberty, not to the point of where I did.
Yeah. I mean, every coach that's been a coach here is definitely a strong professing Christian.
Right, but I don't know that you could bring like Urban Meyer.
No.
To have his rebuild be at Liberty.
No, you'd bring in like who's a professing Christian that's out there right now. Charlie Strong is. Charlie Strong actually is a very, very outspoken Christian.
Dude, I thought Art Brawls would be the guy at one point.
He's not a Christian, is he?
Oh yeah.
Oh, he is.
I think so.
Sure about
that? We haven't been in Sunday school together, but I mean, I'm pretty sure he is.
I mean, I know Charlie Strong is.
Right.
But if you don't want him to be the rebirth.
I think we're talking about something that's probably not going to happen because I don't see Chadwell leaving. I don't.
If Tennessee opens up,
where's he from? Is he from Tennessee?
That's why I'm saying it.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think it's another thing of when do I want to move my family again? And I think his youngest, I want to say, is like
young.
His youngest, maybe his oldest. I want to say late middle school, early high school.
Yeah, his kids aren't that old, I don't think. Yeah. He's a young guy. He coached against me when I played. He was the offensive coordinator for Southern Charleston Southern.
I think he sticks around personally.
Forever.
Forever is a long time. I don't know that I'll be in Lynchburg forever. I mean, I've been here for 44 years, but forever?
You're going to be here forever.
So, but I mean, forever. I hate to bet on anything forever.
I bet Allen's back here in a few years. I can see him.
Hey, if things worked out, I wouldn't mind coming back down to Lynchburg. I enjoyed living in Lynchburg.
Yeah, Lynchburg has a magnet on it. Anyway.
Who wants to stay in Centerville?
Hey, I mean, you get used to it. You get used to it.
Look at us all of a sudden going a rift right now. We're gonna totally go. We're gonna totally. It's not even gonna be a sportscast anymore. Pretty soon, I'm gonna drop a bomb in here.
I got to go pick up my kids for school, in a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna mess around, and it's gonna be something completely unrelated. And Alan's gonna be like, Santiago, you got to deal with this mess.
Oh no.
Santiago will not edit it. He'll just put it up. He probably will actually take a clip out, post it all over social media about us talking about Centerville.
I haven't said
don't
a
worry.
peep about Centerville.
What?
I haven't said a peep about Centerville. I'm not getting into the Centerville argument.
It's some people's like, man, I really want some sports news today. Oh, the sportscast, they probably have some good news. And they jump on its clips about, yeah, Centerville's still struggling economically. And they're like, hold on a second. This is not the podcast I thought I was getting into. Look at him clip one of our clips that we're talking about minorities, and you're asking me who would be the best coach. Kevin Sumlin, Charlie Strong. Really, that's gonna be the clip. He's gonna post it. He's gonna share it all over. People are like, what the heck are these guys? What are they talking about?
Well, I mean, what it is those coaches that we talked about, though. Those are coaches that aren't head football coaches in college right now. So it's seeing if they would come back, where they would end up. That's what it was.
They all got a better shot than Carl Durrell.
All those guys need to come back and coach at the Division III level.
Kevin Sumlin's at the D1 level right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, easy.
And Strong, I believe, is at the NFL level right now.
He is, isn't he? Yeah, he's like an analyst, right? Where's Willie T at?
Watching the podcast from his house.
Actually, no, Taggart is the running backs coach for the Ravens in the NFL.
Taggart is.
Where's Randy Shannon?
Wasn't he at? He was at Florida not that long ago. He's not there anymore. No. Strong.
He is the linebacker and co-defensive coordinator for the Seminoles right now.
Son of a gun.
Okay, so Shannon's a pretty good coach.
Yeah.
You have to wonder at some point. He got stuck in a bad situation at Miami. So I look at Shannon as a little. I look at Shannon as a level above Taggart, Strong, and Sumlin.
You crapped on Randy Shannon, Willie Taggart, Kevin Sumlin, and the other guy for a good 15 minutes. You're going to say it's a bad situation?
No. If you go back to Shannon, I was nicest to him from the beginning. And from the beginning, I said, I don't know if you should go clip back, go watch the clip. I didn't crap on Shannon as much. I mean, come on.
As much.
Charlie, you just walked into that one, sir. Don't. No,
I didn't.
You already messed up, man. I
didn't. Go back and check out the clip.
You couldn't even keep a straight face when you were talking about Shannon before, sir. So
no,
I mean,
it's not. That's not. No, that's blatantly false. Go back and watch the clip.
It's gotten late. You're loopy.
When it was Strong,
Sumlin,
and Taggart, I was like laughing and then Shannon, I'm like, I don't know if we're being a little hard on him. And now that when I think about it some more, I'm like, yeah, we're being a little unfair to Randy Shannon. He's a pretty good coach. And he got stuck in a bad situation when he took the Miami Hurricanes job.
He did what it was when he was there, because he was there before Al Golden was, and he was trying to change how the lifestyle was there. Because when he was there as a player, he was right in the middle of how it was the big Miami time for how they were awesome. So I mean, just seeing how it was, he was trying to make them stronger academically, and unfortunately didn't equate to winning, and so that was why he got fired. And then
let those kids be the U, and we'll have success again in Coral Gables.
I mean, yeah, I could see. And how old is Randy?
Let's see, Randy Shannon is 57.
Hmm.
You better get one quick.
Yeah. Man, it's hard to get back up there once you've had kind of a bad, because what was his record at because he's been a coordinator ever since. When he coached for Miami, he was 5-7, 7-6, 9-4, 7-5. But those were not talented teams.
You said 9-4?
Yeah, 9-4 year.
I don't think that's bad.
No, his last 2 years were 9-4 and 7-5. He made a bowl game 3 of the 4 years, but it's Miami, and that was coming off of they obviously had won national titles in the 90s and the early 2000s. So obviously 5-7, 7-6, 9-4, 9-7, 7-5 doesn't look very good under that pretense.
Drafted by
Well,
the
what
Cowboys.
it was, he got fired after losing to South Florida.
Yeah, he should have been fired.
Consistently brought in recruiting classes ranked in the top 25.
Yeah. I mean, he's a great recruiter, but it just, unfortunately, when it came to winning, he wouldn't, the standard that Miami had been before, he wasn't able to live up to that standard. So that's part of the reason why he got let go.
Who did Urban have on staff with him in Jacksonville?
Charlie Strong.
American. Okay.
Oh. Man, Urban had a heck of a run there in Jacksonville, didn't he?
Great. I pop in those VHSs all the time.
Dude.
Urban Meyer successful.
Well, I mean, do you watch them, or do you watch Saban or Petrino's more?
I watch Art Shell live cam from his house, not the live cam from the casket like you thought.
Dude, to be fair, Saban, okay, Petrino and Myers were disasters. Saban, he didn't give himself enough time.
Saban didn't do stupid stuff off the field. Saban just didn't win.
But did he give himself enough time?
Petrino wrote a Dear John letter.
Yeah,
14.
Yeah.
And Urban Meyer got written a Dear John letter 14. But it was a disaster. I mean, what a nightmare. Got caught at that bar with that 20-year-old.
Yeah. Well, it's because of the motorcycle accident.
No, that's Petrino.
Okay.
Yeah, motorcycle accidents always make people go wacky.
Dude, it's really, I know it gets confusing with coaches.
Yeah, but
hard to keep track of which one.
As Mr. Alvis said one more time, I retract and make an apology for Art Shell. He is still alive. So we've gotten that taken care of. Now, gentlemen.
Are you gonna have him on the podcast?
If he dies in the next 2 days, I'm gonna have to call foreshadowing.
Hope not. But anyway, Tyler, I could try to send him a message. I doubt I'd get him on, but you know what? I'll send him a message so I can publicly apologize to him. How about that?
Dear Mr. Shell, I thought you were dead. Would you like to come on this podcast? We only go an hour, but if we get going, we can go 2.5.
About nothing. Right. Nothing related to college football whatsoever.
We would like to bring you on for our minority coaching segment.
I did get 5-10 minutes in on you with Oregon, though.
Yeah, you did. You did. And besides, the thing for if we could get our show on, I would want to talk about just what he accomplished in college before coming to the pros. Because I mean,
we should try to get Archell on here.
Do you know what college he went to? Without looking it up.
Who are you asking?
Allen. You didn't kill the man.
I looked it up earlier, so.
Do you remember it though?
It was Division II.
Okay, so no. You don't remember it, but it was Division II. He played for Maryland State, which is now Maryland Eastern Shore.
Mm-hmm.
And Maryland Eastern Shore is Division I, by the way.
Oh, okay.
No.
The very
alive
and well Art Shell.
I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at the notable former Hawks of Maryland Eastern Shore. I haven't even heard of any of them besides Art Shell.
Let me look.
And I consider myself a trivia guru and czar.
Oh, geez. Emerson Boozer played for them.
Yeah, you couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
See if I don't know any of them.
He's
Sorry.
alive, by the way.
Thank you, sir. It's good to know that everything you say is perfect as well, sir. I appreciate that.
Me?
Yes, sir.
I haven't put anybody in the ground. I just say he was alive. Now, the late Roger Brown is not alive, and he was also born in Surrey County, Virginia.
And he had a restaurant in Portsmouth for many years.
I will admit we got a clip.
He's in the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame.
Yes, he is.
The late Arch.
You know what the restaurant's name in Portsmouth was, or are you looking it up?
I actually went to it.
Okay.
We should actually play a game. Who's alive and who's dead?
Roger Brown's Restaurant and Sports Bar.
Yeah.
I
Wow,
went
he
to
owned
it.
3 McDonald's?
Yep.
Wow.
Alive or dead? Barry Switzer.
Alive.
He's still alive.
Jimmy Johnson.
Alive.
Still alive.
Tom Landry.
Dead.
Dead.
Tom Osborne.
Alive.
Alive.
Tommy
Oh,
Tuberville.
Sorry.
That was a little hesitant by you, Alan. Tommy Tuberville. He's live and well in the U.S. Senate, passing good conservative policies. Hooah.
Any other ones you want to say, Tyler?
Bobby
Lawrence
Knight.
Phillips.
Lawrence Phillips dead, and then who'd you say, Tyler?
Bobby Knight.
Alive.
Bobby Knight's still alive.
Mike Krzyzewski.
Alive.
Alive.
Maurice Clarett.
He's still alive.
Still alive.
Motivational speaker.
Dean Smith.
Dead.
Deceased.
When did Dean Smith die?
About 3 years ago, I believe.
I think
And
it's longer
he
than that.
Then he made sure that all of his former players were able to go out for one last meal on him. I believe he gave him checks for each of them for $250.
Are you Wikipediaing this?
No,
Me?
I just know that off the top of my head.
He passed in 2015, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
See, I wasn't sure about Dean Smith, honestly.
I know, I knew he was dead.
You're not happy about that, are you?
No, but it's just because I remember when it happened, because when they talked about the different players, how they got the meal, they got the check to have one more meal on him for $250. That was something
Bill McCartney.
Alive. Or no, wait. He might be deceased.
No, I think he's dead. I thought he's dead.
Founder of Promise Keepers, though.
Yeah, I thought he
He's
died.
dead?
I'm looking it up.
No, you guys tried killing him.
He's alive.
He's alive.
Okay, Bob, there you go.
What? I didn't kill him.
I'm not the only one.
I didn't kill him.
Yeah, you did.
I said alive, then I changed it up because Tyler gave me a look.
He is pretty old.
Well,
He's
you
good.
changed it up, though.
Really, you're gonna throw this on me now?
Yes.
After Art Shell, you
Rick Neuheisel.
alive?
He's alive.
On
He's
CBS.
on, he does sports.
Dude,
I listen to him every
Yeah,
morning.
his podcast is dead. His coaching career is dead. He might be alive in body, but he's dead.
Randy Walker.
Dead.
Correct. Former Northwestern coach.
Yeah, he
I think
died.
before Pat Fitzgerald, or maybe
didn't he
before
die?
Gary Gardner.
That's
Didn't
right.
he
Yeah,
die
him and Hefner died within like months of each
Yeah.
other, or weeks.
Who?
Terry Hefner, he was a coach
Oh.
in Indiana.
Clem
Bobby
Haskins.
Bowden.
Bowden's
Dead.
dead. Clem Haskins.
Alive.
No, I believe he's dead.
You sure?
I think he died.
I believe he's dead. He died.
Clem Haskins has nothing to do with college football, by the way.
Well, neither Dean Smith.
Well, I didn't bring him
Yeah.
up, I don't think.
Neither Bobby Knight. Oh, he's still alive. Okay, we tried to kill him. Okay, we have all killed someone. But we didn't like announce it proudly, like the late Art Shell.
I'm the softest one, though. I didn't kill anyone until you gave me a weird look.
Did you quickly kill Bill McCartney?
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
You're
okay.
like, Promise Keeper's dead. Steve
Okay.
Spurrier.
Alive.
Should have never coached a football team in Washington, by the way.
That's another one. We're learning something. Doesn't translate. Is Lincoln Riley? Are you listening? No, I actually think Lincoln Riley would be better as that.
You sleep.
It's pretty remarkable that Jim Harbaugh has been so good at both levels.
Live.
He's alive.
Bo Schembechler.
Dead.
Gary Moeller.
Gary Moeller.
I think he's dead.
I thought he was alive.
I believe he just died, actually. Ooh. Did we kill him? Gary Moeller.
Yeah, he's dead.
Dead. Just died.
I think it is better for me to say somebody's alive when they're not, because at least I am having compassion on that individual, where y'all are just putting people in the grave and everything.
Joe Gibbs.
Alive.
Who?
Joe Gibbs.
JD Gibbs.
JD died.
Yes.
JD died 4 or 5 years ago.
Who's JD Gibbs?
His son, who was the owner of he was one of the leaders for Denley. He actually discovered Denny Hamlin.
What did he die of?
I think Hodgkin's.
Hodgkin's or cancer.
He was young.
Sorry, cancer. Yeah, he's only like 40 something, or 40 or 50s, I believe.
He actually played football at Stanford, by the way.
Oh wow, that's sad.
Yeah, no, I treated his house when I did pest control, so yeah.
Oh really?
Yes.
Oh.
That was interesting to do. But gentlemen, I think it's time we all three of us need to start going to bed. So if we're gonna try to find you on Twitter, or any social media, which right now I think would be a mistake, how would we do that for you, Tower?
At TurnerCast.
All right, Bob.
If you would like to play Dead or Alive with me, go to the Sports Buffet on Twitter.
Well, if you would want to try to play that game, I will send you to Mr. Bob Alvis. And if you want to play a different game for odds, I'll send you to Mr. Tyler Turner. But for me, I'm on Twitter, Alan F. West, or at Instagram and Facebook at Alan.West.46. We do have the Jersey Boys coming on tonight. Otherwise, that's Tyler, that's Bob. I'm Alan. This has been the Top 25 Rundown. Have a great week.